Welcome to Spinning Back Clique, MMA Junkie's weekly show where we take a quick spin through the biggest news in mixed martial arts. Today, we got a packed show. Here's what's on the agenda. We'll be recapping Michael Morales' big knockout win over Gilbert Durinho Burns at UFC Vegas 106. We'll be going over the long overdue announcements for UFC International Fight Week, specifically talking about the two title fights that will headline the UFC 317 card. And we'll be going over some other big bookings that were announced for other events. And we'll be providing a preview for UFC Vegas 107, which is not this weekend, but the following. But we'll be off next week due to Memorial Day. Hello, everyone. My name is Danny Segura. And again, welcome to the show. Before we get started, let me introduce you to the panel we got today. We got Ghost from MMA Junkie Radio and the creator of SBC. Look at him. We got Matt Wells as well. No pun, you saw a little play on words there. Matt, how are you?
I'm great, man. Great. Glad to be back on the show.
Yeah, always excited to have you on. And then we got Nolan King, RIP the Celtics. How are you feeling, buddy? Better? Your silence says it all, my friend.
It doesn't have the words, guys.
Yeah, it's like the third week in a row that's happened, but it stung a little bit more because the Celtics aren't in the playoffs. So I had to keep the flag up, right? You ride or die.
Yeah,
so
here we are. You got to be with your team through thick and thin. That's 100%. All right, guys. Before we get started with the topics, a couple things you must do here as an MMA fan. Number one, smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and follow MMA Junkie on all social media platforms at MMA Junkie. It is a must do for all MMA fans. Okay. All right, let's get started. UFC Vegas 106 or UFC Fight Night 256, whatever floats your boat. We're going to be discussing the main event here, which was obviously where all the attention was focused this past weekend, and some key results as well. So let's get started here. Holy moly. Michael Morales runs through Gilbert Durinho Burns in the first round, not only keeping his undefeated record, but also announcing to the world that he's one of the players at 170 pounds. Matt, let me get your initial reaction. What was your live reaction and your first initial moments after you saw what Michael Morales did in that octagon?
Man, it was an impressive performance, right? I mean, his first round finish in a row, coming off that win over Neil Magny. This was like a big step up in competition, or at least it was supposed to be. Gilbert Burns, former title challenger. This was supposed to be like his next big test to see if he's ready for that upper echelon of the 170-pound division. And he torched Gilbert Burns, man, and made it look easy. And the thing that I really like about Michael Morales' game is that he doesn't really rush anything. He kind of lets it come to him, but when he sees it, he takes it, man. Like, he goes after it. As soon as, like, he sees that opening, he's going to take it, and he's going to snipe. And then when he hurts you, yeah, good luck. Because, I mean, he just pours it on until he gets that stoppage. And it was just a fantastic performance. I thought Gilbert Burns was going to be a real stiff test for him. I did pick Michael Morales to win the fight, but, man, I didn't see it going down in the first round like this. I mean, Gilbert is usually a very durable guy. I mean, I think this result speaks a lot to him and his future, but, man, you can't help but be super impressed by what Michael Morales did in this fight, man. I expect big things for him going forward.
I'm with Matt. I was super shocked. I picked Michael Morales to win. It's there on the staff picks, but I was the one telling moments before to people on Twitter. I'm like, watch out. I don't think these odds makers got it right. I mean, Durinho Burns shouldn't be as big of an underdog. Watch out. He might pull off a decision here. I have a feeling. Next thing you know, like 2 minutes later, he's got his hand raised. Were you as surprised as me and Matt about the result? Or did you think that, this guy should have done what he did to Burns?
I think I might have been more surprised because I think I ended up taking Burns in the end. I looked at it and I thought, look, man, this guy has only lost to the best. I know a lot of people are going to point to the losses coming in, but those are to studs. And Morales, we know he's got tons of potential, but I think we still had a couple questions here and there, right? I thought this might be the fight that was just too much for him, but boy, was I wrong. I mean, he kind of mopped the floor with him. And the thing is, I don't want to harp on Gilbert Burns too much because I feel like no matter who was on the other side of Michael Morales that night, a lot of ass whoopings would have been handed out. I mean, it was an A+ performance. The guy was just on point. And I think that's what has to happen in a situation like Michael Morales, because when you're in that division and when you're a young fighter, you're not just facing the guy in front of you. We are also looking at what he would look like if he faced some of these other guys in the division. So you're kind of fighting these ghosts off to the side. And I thought he did a terrific job of not just dispatching Gilbert Burns, but showing us this could have been just about anyone, and I probably would have done the same thing to them. And I think that's something that really pops up on the UFC's radar. And I think amongst the fans, you maximize your time. This is a fight that took place in the Apex, and you don't have that roaring crowd or anything, but that was about as loud as I've heard the Apex get. And I think it's a performance that really resonates with the fans, and it's going to put them in a good spot.
100%. Nolan, the way I kind of viewed Michael Morales prior to this fight was, you got the pack of the Sean Brady's, the Jack Della Maddalena's, obviously before winning the title, Ian Gary's, Shafkat. Like, you got this group of contenders. I didn't put him in that group just yet, but I felt like he was kind of, to keep the sort of planetary metaphors here that I used last week. I kind of just felt he was like a distant planet that you could kind of see, and he was clearly there. He was a presence, but he wasn't part of the orbit of the contenders. Now I feel like he is. I feel like he's in that orbit. I feel like when you talk about the threats to the title, you got to mention Michael Morales. The guy is legit. Are you sold on him, or do you still want to wait a little bit? Do you? Yeah, I guess what I'm asking, do you put him in that group with the top contenders that we mentioned?
I do at this point. I think he's so imposing, right? And I tweeted this out, but welterweight is really hot right now, and in a way that we don't usually see. Like, I think a lot of times we see a pack of new contenders. You say, oh, this division's, Division X is really, really, buzzing right now. It's got a lot of promise. The next couple of years are going to be big. And then guys, when they get in, maybe they get to 10 to 15, you have a group of guys that are right there. Then when they start to take that jump up to fight the top of the division, they seem to falter, and maybe a prospect sneaks through. But how many divisions do we see that there's like the same 5 guys that are at the top of the division forever? Welterweight right now is like a real rarity in that there was this big wave of contenders, including Morales, including Ian Gary, including Sean Brady, Jack, Carlos Prats, even still, Shavkat, and they all won. They all went out there, and Buckley, they all go out there and win. They've essentially flipped the old guard and taken over, right? I mean, JDM's the champ now. He beat Bilal. Sean Brady went out there and beat Leon Edwards. The way that the round robin of Shavkat, Ian Gary, and I guess, Prats, I still think has promise, the way that that's played out. Michael Morales going out there and beating Gilbert Burns. So welterweight is wide open right now. It's really fun times at 170. A lot of fresh matchups too, like a lot of guys that we haven't seen face off. So super, super healthy division right now. And Michael Morales is right in the mix of all of it. I think the way that he went out there and not only won, like, if you told me, oh, he would go out there and beat Gilbert Burns in the first round, finish him, I think that was a plausible outcome coming into the fight even. But the way that he did it, the way that he just really stalked him and just looked like, a guy that was like 2 weight classes bigger and more powerful and quicker. And I know Gilbert, is maybe on the tail end of his contending career, but like at the same time, man, to go out there and just completely thrash him, I thought was really, really incredible. My Michael Morales, and he absolutely has to be in that conversation with the rest of those guys that I named.
Yeah, 100%. I want to ask the entire panel here. This is a bold question, but what does your gut tell you? You think Michael Morales fights for a belt at 170 pounds? Let's start with Ghost.
I think eventually he can get it done, but really, when you look at the group that you were talking about, like a lot of those have that potential of fighting for the title. I think what we really need to focus on is who can actually hold on to this thing, because that's going to be the key, right? I think this division's so good that no matter who ends up with the belt, I don't think that reign's going to be very long. Do I think Morales can keep it for a while? I think he's probably got a little bit more potential than some of the other guys with his game to possibly do that.
Well, let's just talk about whether he can get to the dance or not. So you say yes. Matt, you think he fights for a belt?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing to remember here, he's only 25 years old, so he's got so much time to get up there. I mean, he could take the fast track if that's what he wants to do, or he can take it slow. But, I mean, taking it slow is going to be hard to do when he's already, he just beat that number 8 guy in the world within a round. So, I mean, he's there. He's got so much time to do it. It's just going to be all about the matchups and the timing and, how fast the UFC wants to see him getting that title shot as well. But yeah, absolutely. I think this guy is not only going to fight for a title, but he's going to win it one day.
Ooh. Nolan, what do you think? Is it unanimous here? I mean, this guy's bound to fight for a UFC title.
Yeah, I think the thing that separates him from the rest of those guys that I named is the fact that, like, that he can get so much better. I think we haven't seen him touch his potential yet. So I do think he'll contend for a title one day. There are still some unknowns that will be interesting to see, like when they give him, whoever they give him next, perhaps will give a little bit more pushback, which we haven't seen a ton of in his UFC career. We've seen a little bit, but I think that his next performance will certainly answer questions. But I do think with his, like the ceiling is so high for him that I think that we will see him contend for a title.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think he's going to fight for a UFC belt at 170 pounds for sure. Will he win it? That is the question. But this guy's just bound to be a title contender and to be I guess, a former or, title challenger. There's just so much potential in this guy. And I wasn't really sold on him too much prior to this fight. I thought he was good. Don't get me wrong, but going to a decision with Jake Matthews and some other guys, like clearly he proved he was good. But this was his big statement where he's like, okay, I am here. I am one of the very best, and I am a threat to the division. I guess my only concern, and I don't know if you guys share this as well, he posted a photo on his stories, I believe it was 12 hours after weighing, and he was weighing 196. So add another 12 hours after he, stepping into that cage, he was probably north of 200 pounds. I don't know. I kind of see his career very similar to like an Anthony Johnson's. I don't know if he's going to have a lot of life at 170 pounds.
They're going to be calling him a weight bully, among other things, after this week, huh?
Yeah, he's a big dude. I mean, it's part of the game, right? The weight cutting. But yeah, I mean, 25 years old, you would imagine 5 years from now, he's going to be a lot bigger than what he is now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that room for improvement, though, from fight to fight, this jump was pretty insane to do that to a guy like Gilbert Burns. And like Nolan said, you feel like he still has room to get better, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. Nolan, you were going to say something?
No, I was just going to say the good thing for him is even if he kind of matures out of his frame, he's still a pretty big boy for 185. So
yeah,
he's got a lot going for him.
One thing, Danny, I do like how you mentioned, those decisions to Jake Matthews and Max Griffin, because sometimes we hear fighters, they talk about, needing to get that cage time. Yeah. And I think this result here against Burns was a perfect example of maybe there's some truth to that, because you go to the decision against those two guys and you can go out there and starch Magny and Burns. I think that those two fights, if you go back and look at them, those really were, okay, let me get in here, try some things, get some cage time, really get a feel for what it's like to go deep in a fight, but then come back and also prove I can get guys out of here.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and we've seen a little bit of everything. And you know what's crazy? I have a close relationship with this coach, Raul Arbizu, and I talk to him from time to time. And he's told me, like, Michael Morales is not even close to his potential. Like, people haven't even seen his wrestling, and that's his bread and butter. Like, he has him training just boxing in Tijuana with the coach that got the career started originally with Julio Cesar Chavez. So you're gonna see a lot of hooks to the body and stuff like that, which we saw it against Burns. So I mean, this guy's just fighting kind of like on like his B mode, like his full potential has yet to be unlocked, which is quite frightening. I guess let's discuss what's next for Morales, right? Obviously, we're all on the same page. The guy's legit. The guy's a threat. But how should the UFC handle him next? Because he clearly has a lot of star potential. I mean, I believe most of the media that were there were from Ecuador, traveled to cover his fight. It's a country that's, believe it or not, Ecuador has a lot of emphasis in MMA, given Chito Vera's success. He became an absolute star over there. He also represents Mexico, fighting out of Mexico, and obviously his fighting style is super exciting. So what is the right move for Michael Morales? After this Gilbert Burns fight, how should the UFC match him up? I guess let's start with Ghost.
I probably have an unpopular opinion here, guys, but hear me out. I think you have a star on your hands, and if I'm Michael Morales and I look at this pit with all these fighters, high level, I would say rather than jump into that pit with a machine gun, stay up top with a sniper rifle. Let them pick each other off and kind of ease your way down there. A guy like a Colby Covington, something like that, take one of those guys. Go fight over there in Mexico, but let those other guys kind of take each other out and then pick them off as you're coming down. Don't really rush to get into that pile, because this kid's got a lot of potential. And I think he needs to do it the right way. I don't want to rush him too much. If I'm the UFC, I think you have to realize that you do have a potential star here and just maybe pump the brakes a little bit. Not that he can't handle it. I just feel like there's an easier path and he could still get what he wants.
Nolan, what do you think? For me, this is weird. I look at the rankings and there's not like a clear, glaring like Bilal loses, right? And you go, okay, you got to make that Kamaru Usman fight. But for him, like, I don't think there's like a clear option. What do you think is the fight for him?
No, especially in the immediate too, right? Because I'm assuming like we got Jack and probably Shavkat next, and then that leaves Brady and Gary, who I think are kind of on the doorstep of being, you know, a title eliminator sort of position. So I don't know. Do you go with a Leon Edwards? Do you like Ghost said? I mean, the next option would be Colby. I think even though we look at the rankings with that, I think
take
that would
that
be
fight? I don't think so.
A pretty big beatdown at this point after how Colby's looked the last couple. Yeah, I mean, does Colby even want to fight? Like that last fight, I know he took on short notice, but he didn't look like he had really even, you know, he's regressed, but he also didn't look like he trained, which was not really a good combination. So I don't know, maybe Leon, if I had to pick somebody just by process of elimination, but that would be obviously cranking up the dial a little bit in terms of the challenge that Morales would be facing. I don't know if that's too much too quick.
Yeah. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, Leon was my pick just because of the main event status that Leon brings with him. I mean, he just got a big win in the main event. Morales did. My thing, more importantly for me, is get him out of the Apex. Don't put this man in the Apex ever again. Let him rock a crowd, whether it be in a main event or a co-main event. That's what I want to see for him next. As far as opponent, if it's not Leon, I do like what Goes was saying about, you know, kind of pumping the brakes and let those guys at the very top, you know, snipe themselves and take themselves out. I wouldn't hate a matchup with, you know, somebody who's currently holding number 10 or number 11, Jeff Neal or Stephen Thompson, even, because those are well-established names. Yeah, they're not at the, you know, the heights that they've been, but those are names that people still want to see and they're still interested in. So I wouldn't be mad at those matchups, and those are two matchups that definitely shouldn't be in an Apex. So
yeah,
as long as it's not, you know, in front of 15 people in Las Vegas, I'm happy.
I do gotta say, Matt, I did like this fight being at the Apex, and I'll tell you why. I think the Apex is like a good like testing ground for a lot of these fighters, because, you know, fighting in front of an arena in front of 20,000, especially because the UFC is selling out now all the time, like it's not easy, right? So like getting a 5 rounds main event, having the attention from all the media, even if there's not a lot of media out there, you know, being the face of the poster, kind of at a smaller scale at the Apex. I do think the Apex serves its purpose. And for this fight against Burns, I was completely happy that that it was here and not in Miami or 315, how it got rumored before.
Completely disagree.
Okay. All right. Danny be tripping. How many minutes into this? 17 minutes into the show. All right. Yeah. So I guess let's talk about what's next for Burns. Nolan, he's like, obviously, like, people love this guy. I mean, he fights everyone. I love the fact that he's willing to give the young guys an opportunity. Hamza, Michael Morales, Sean Brady at his time, even Jack Della Maddalena at his time. But what's next for him? 4 defeats in a row. Do you think it's time to hang up the gloves, or do you see some future for him in the UFC?
I think it's getting close, man. But again, you know, he's only gone in there and fought savages. So I love Gilbert Burns. I think he's such a great representative of the sport. Seems like a really cool guy and put on some great moments. So it's definitely, you know, not any sort of dig at him in any way. I don't know. I mean, if he wants to fight again, like, I think he's a guy that should get that kind of credit to do a retirement fight, a declared one, if he should choose. If not, I know we just love matching everybody up with Colby Covington at this point, but that's another option that I see, because they're kind of 2 veteran guys that we don't know how much they have left in the tank. Yeah, and outside of that, I don't know, maybe take a little bit of a break. You know, I think you know, he fought in September against Sean Brady, he lost, and you know, he fought Morales and he got knocked out in the first round. So I don't know. I mean, to me, he's not a guy that I'm like calling for his career or anything, but at the same time, I think we're certainly reaching the end, and I wouldn't hate him taking a step down in competition to fight you know, somebody that's not in the top 10 anymore.
Goes, Matt, either of you have a good next read for Burns here?
I got one. Vicente Luque. Still in the rankings?
No, they'll never fight each other. They're best friends.
each other.
Hey, if not, listen, why not go with Michael Page, who's also right there in the same spot in the rankings too? I think those would be good matchups for him. You know, names that people are familiar with again. But yeah, it's tough for Gilbert Burns, right? Because you kind of want to see him just call it a career. I mean, you lose 4 in a row against the top names. It's like, what are you really doing at this point? But sure, you still want to have a career if you're him, because it didn't seem like he was ready to be like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah.
So it's tough because he's a established name. People like seeing him. He's a fan favorite type of guy. He's got highlights on his reel, so it's you got to put him in a fight against somebody that's still a name too. So you don't want to put him against an up and comer, one of these guys that with 1 or 2 fights in the UFC. So somebody at the very tail end of the rankings, I think.
Yeah. I think just throw him in the Legends division. I think if the UFC goes back to Brazil, this is a guy that you got to put on there. I mean, he's done so much for the sport. Give him like a Daniel Rodriguez. He's coming off a win, or like, those type of names, those veteran names that have lingered around that are still kind of fighting there and have something left in the tank, but are clearly not title contenders anymore. I think that's kind of his home for now. But everyone's always down to watch a Gilbert Burns fight, win or lose. The guy goes out there to entertain. All right, guys, real quick, let's finish this card off with a highlight. Give me one highlight, one thing that you would like to highlight. Let's start with Goes.
That Costa Rosta fight, man, that was just rock'em sock'em robots, and at the end they had almost nothing. It was like almost like a Rocky fight at the end, right? Like your arms were barely swinging. A lot of heart in that fight. I really enjoyed it.
Nolan,
you're on mute, Nolan.
Muted.
I think Myron Santos looked really good going up a weight class against Sadiq Youssef, who's a very experienced guy. And Myron's, I think, somebody that's got a lot of potential. So for him to be now showing success at 145 and 155, I was pretty impressed with him.
Matt?
Jared Gordon, man, shout out to him. He finally got that finish that he's been waiting for. Yeah. I mean,
no controversy.
Yeah, you gotta be a fan of Jared Gordon, man. I don't see how people are not if you're watching this guy fight, and then if you listen to what he says on the mic after. He's just a guy that you got to kind of root for, man, because he's been through a lot in his personal life, and obviously he's trying to turn it around and help people. So I mean, you got to respect him.
I want to shout out Tisha Torres, or Tisha Pennington. Sorry, she said some things that she's gone through in the past few months with some family members passing away, and she's gone through a lot. Now, I've always had a soft spot for Tisha in terms of like her career and just like one of the few remaining like old guard of that strawweight division that's still picking up wins. Always goes there in shape, always makes way. Like you got to respect a veteran like that. And she's calling for a big fight. I think she deserves one. Put her up in the top 10 rankings and let's see what she could do. But yeah, shouts out to Tisha, still doing the damn thing. Very, very impressive. All right, guys, let's move on to topic 2. UFC International Fight Week, its main and co-main event fight got announced finally. So let's talk about this main event. First of all, we're going to see Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira go at it for the vacant UFC lightweight title. Before we get into this bout, let's talk about the situation around this fight. It's for the vacant title. Are we surprised here that Islam Makhachev vacated? Because it almost felt like it was a given. Like, he's done so much, pound for pound #1 guy. Like, if there's a guy that's going to retain his belt and be able to do a champ fight, it's that guy. But that wasn't the case. Let's go back to Matt. Surprised that Makhachev vacated his title.
Yeah, I'm surprised. And I don't know if it was his decision really either, It kind of feels like a decision that the UFC said, hey, you're not holding 2 belts anymore and holding up 2 divisions. But yeah, for Islam, I mean, he's relatively active, right?
Yeah,
I could see him being a guy that would defend it both. As much as I don't feel like this was his decision, I'm also kind of not mad at it because I don't like seeing divisions held up. Sure, the lightweight division now has a very interesting vacant title fight on its hands, but before that, it did really feel like, before Ilya said, all right, I'm vacating and moving up, it really did feel like it was kind of like stuck in neutral for a second there, because you had a whole lot of aging contenders still hanging around in the top 5, top 6. But now it feels like, okay, we got something cooking here now, especially if Ilya can go in there and beat Charles Oliveira. That could be something that could really shake up that division. We were just talking about the welterweight division having all this new blood and all these, it can go a whole bunch of different ways. Well, if Ilya comes in and takes that belt, then now you got a whole fresh set of contenders right there for him. So things could get really interesting, I think, very quickly. But yeah, I really thought Islam would hold both belts, or at least, if he were to win at 170.
Same. I understand the UFC like not wanting to tie up divisions because a champ, even if you're active, you do tie up a division, right? You're going to fight less than 2 people, right? But I think they should have at least given him the chance, like, hey, we need a lightweight title fight, X date. So like, sure, we'll give you the opportunity, but you got to be ready. And if you don't, then we'll strip you, or you can vacate the belt, but at least give him the chance to at least, have that picture with the 2 titles. I mean, that's a nice moment right there. Nolan, do you think Makhachev returns to 155, or you think he's moving up to welterweight and making a career there?
I think we see him go back down again at some point. I don't know. To me, it's like this whole thing, I'm very conflicted about it because on one hand, I'm a big fan of divisions not being tied up. I hate that. At the same time, I feel like not reaching a conclusion of like an era of a champion, like it's kind of tough too. Like, we saw Ilya, he finally won the belt, and then it's like, oh, like that storyline's over. It's like, I don't know. It's like a TV show getting canceled over and over again, like halfway through the season, right? You never get an ending. So I don't know. I understand it. I understand the UFC, like we talked about a million times. It really comes down to their scheduling and trying to get fights on pay-per-views, and everything else kind of comes secondary. So I can't hate these fights. Like, I'm very intrigued by them, but I think there's still something that I feel like I'm missing by having title reigns. If this is going to be a thing now where people win the belt, they defend it a couple times, and then they switch divisions and we never see them lose it. I don't know. It's just kind of a thing we haven't really experienced a ton. And now we've got it in two divisions almost simultaneously.
Yeah, let's see how it plays out versus kind of like the old model, or how they used to allow things go. So Islam Makhachev moves up to 170, vacates the belt. So you have to make a lightweight title fight, right, for the vacant belt. UFC chose Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira. In your opinion, was this the right call? Was this the right pairing?
Look, I think with what you had left over, it makes sense to me. But when you think of International Fight Week and how big it's supposed to be, coming off of a big event here in Las Vegas of WrestleMania and how packed it was, the energy that the city had, this kind of lacks a little bit of that oomph. I do feel like it's the right fight to make with what's left over. But I think had it been, say, Topuria and Makhachev, I think we'd all be feeling a little bit different. But I feel like the UFC probably made a lot of promises they couldn't keep to people. And this is the scenario that they ended up having to come up with. But overall, I think we'll get over it. The first time we see those two face-to-face, we'll probably get past that.
Clickbait headline goes, Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira, the leftovers. Come on, goes. I'm excited for this fight. But yes, it does feel a little bit weird that we had to wait for so many things to come up with International Fight Week, right? And we were talking about before this, John Jones versus Tom Aspinall, or Islam Makhachev versus Topuria. Now we're getting this, which is still a fine fight. But yeah, I kind of agree with you a little bit. It does feel like a little less than what we're used to for International Fight Week. I do got to say this. I do feel like the UFC dropped the ball here. Everyone's been clamoring like, oh, Charles Oliveira deserves the belt. But he beat Michael Chandler. And prior to that, he had lost to Sarukian. I think the UFC missed a big opportunity making a huge grudge match for a belt. Paddy Pimblett versus Ilia Topuria. Paddy also beat Michael Chandler, and even more dominantly. Plus, he's on a win streak. I think that was a fight to make. Is this hashtag Danny be tripping, or
you took the words out of my mouth?
Damn it. Okay. Explain to me
but
why
we'd be jazzed about it, right? Wouldn't we all be excited?
That's a home run. Okay, tell me, why does Charles Oliveira deserve a title fight more than Paddy Pimblett at this point?
I mean, I think he's proven himself a bit more. He's a guy that has held the title. He's been in awesome barn burner title fights. I don't know. I think Paddy, is beating Michael Chandler at this point in his career. Does that earn you a title shot? I think that's too much of a jump for me.
I could say the same thing about your boy Charles Oliveira.
No, I know, but look at what else look at the entire spread of his career and the moments.
If that was the case, then BJ Penn comes back and he gets a title shot, because look all what he's done. Well, it's what have you done right also, now?
I don't know about that. That's a whole nother topic that we could get into, but it's I don't know. To me, it's I mean, if we're talking about a fighter like BJ Penn, there was also the downswing of his career as well. So Charles Oliveira has maintained his status as one of the best in the world for years now. And I think he's proven that he is the elite of the elite. Paddy I almost feel like I owe him an apology to a certain degree, because not that I've ever said anything bad. He's way exceeded my expectations of what he would accomplish already. So this is not a knock, but I think, to me, I would prefer to see him. There's like 3 steps between Michael Chandler and Topuria, in my opinion, at this point.
9-fight winning streak for Paddy Pimblett, 1-fight win streak for Charles Oliveira, and both have the same win. Are you with Nolan, Matt? Hashtag Danny be tripping, or am I onto something?
Yeah, I mean, you're on to something, but not right now. I
So
mean,
I'm
that could be
tripping a
the
little
next
bit on it.
fight, you know, depending if Patty wins, whoever he gets matched up against. But that is on the horizon, so you're not tripping completely. But yeah, you're tripping if you want that right now.
Okay.
I
All
agree with Matt. Did you say he's on something or on to something?
right.
Uh,
I
but
said
but
he's on to something.
oh, okay. Then yeah, no. Okay, so here's the thing, Danny. I feel where you're
You're gonna
going.
say I was
This,
on something? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, this kind of would catch everybody off guard. And the thing is, Topuria and Oliveira is a good fight. It's a solid fight, but it's not the fight where you throw everything away and you say, "Guys, leave me alone today. I have to see this." Patty Pimblett would be that. You don't
Yes.
want to be the guy
International
that
Fight Week.
like you don't want to hear over social media what happened in that fight. You want to watch it live. So I get where you're coming from with that.
I've
But
seen
man, you
people
piss off
get
a lot of
title
people.
shots off way less.
True. But let me ask
Listen,
you this, okay? Oliveira or Pimblett, they're fighting Topuria, gun to your head. Who are you going to take? Who has the better chance of winning that fight?
Against probably Oliveira.
Yeah, that's where
So
we
it's
end
still a
up,
big
right?
ass fight, International Fight Week. You can back it up with it makes sense, I think. I don't know. And then you do like Justin Gaethje versus Oliveira in the Coleman event. I don't know. I don't know. I think the UFC missed out a big opportunity. And you know, these big fights sometimes don't come around. Sometimes you know you have one chance of making them, and then poof, all of a sudden they're gone. This was the fight. This fight has to happen, and you finally had an excuse to make it, and they didn't do it. But whatever.
listen.
Here or there. The fight is made.
I
Okay.
appreciate the love fest for Patty that we're giving here, but let's be real. Facts are Charles Oliveira has more IG followers than both of them, double that of Patty Pimblett. So let's not
Wow,
pretend
really?
like Charles isn't popular. Let's not do that.
Yeah, he is a popular guy. He is a popular guy. I'll say that. All right,
I'll
let's
say
get
this
into the
much.
prediction. The fight is made. Topuria versus Oliveira. Let's start. Give me. This is gonna be 2 questions. Who do you think wins, and what result do you think is best for the promotion, Nolan?
I think Ilya wins, and I think that's the best result for the promotion. I mean, having him with the title, seeing what he was able to do in that market that they still haven't gone to, massive star there. I think you want him with that title still. And so, honestly, styles make fights. I think this is a tricky fight for Charles. You know, I think he's bound to get hit quite a bit, and I think that won't. And again, I'm over the ghosts of the old Charles Oliveira that used to we saw him get broken a lot. I don't think that's what's going on here, but I'm not sure even with that, even the new Charles Oliveira can take that sort of power. I think it will really translate well at 155 too.
He is hittable, and Ilya Topuria cracks like nobody else. Matt, you better pick both Charles Oliveira for both these questions, or I'm gonna be all kinds of tripping right now.
No, I'm not. I'm actually going to go with Ilya.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, I think the best result would be a very competitive drag out fight of the night type of fight, but the result would be Ilya winning because of all of the unknowns that we talked about. And as you mentioned, that potential fight against Patty, we're also looking at things like
all of a sudden you're warming up with the
no,
fight.
I like the idea. I just don't like it being
okay.
this fight right now.
All right.
Because, you know, think about a year from now. Let's say Patty gets one more big win, 1 or 2 more big wins. If the UFC actually does take that trip to Spain, Ilya versus Patty in Spain would be gigantic.
Yep. Goes, what do you think?
I think I'm with these 2 guys. It's hard to say that, you know, but I do think Topuria is tricky. I think you use that word, Danny, and I think he'll probably find his mark.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I do think the best result. And I already have a lot of interest in Islam Makhachev and Topuria. So if it's either Patty or Makhachev returning to the division, either fight is going to be interesting. So,
and it's a shame that Patty balloons up, because this would be a perfect opportunity if he were to have been able to turn around and fight on this card to set up that fight too. You know, I think sometimes the UFC was really good about that for a period of time. We still see it to a certain degree, but love having those contender fights and on the same card as the champs. And this card, man, is missing depth. I think that's really my problem with this International Fight Week card.
Yeah, that is true. All right, let's discuss the co-main event of the card. It is a flyweight title bout between Alexandre Pantoja and Kai Kara-France. Kind of same question that we started off the previous bout with. Was it the right call? Because you have so many names at flyweight right now that you can put in there. And they put Kai Kara-France, I believe, on a 1-fight win streak. Again, I think this card has a bit of a theme there. Was it the right call? Given you guys' logic, I'm sure you guys are going to say yes. But let's, I guess, go through the question. Anyways, Matt, what do you think? Interesting to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it. I mean, flyweight is always very weird. It seems like with the UFC, right? Because they seem to disrespect it all the time.
Mm.
Whether it be just ignoring contenders. Like if you look at the graphic for this fight, they put a top 10 matchup beneath unranked heavyweights for some reason. Like it's like why is Royval versus Kopp below Denise and Tafa? I don't care if that's the bout order. Don't even list that on the graphic like that. It doesn't even make sense. Yeah, that pissed me off when I saw that, to be honest. But yeah, as far as this matchup goes, it makes sense. I mean, Kaikar France, he's a popular guy. He's a finisher. He goes out there and he goes for it, really, right? And he got that big win over Steve Erceg, who fought for the title. So you got to put him in there, man, and see what happens. I think Pantoja will probably get it done, but I think it's an intriguing matchup and one that a lot of fans would like to see. So yeah, I'm not mad at this.
Anybody have any objections with what Matt said? I feel like we're all kind of on the same page here, right?
Yeah, flyweight needs some figuring out, man. I think the most wins that people have in a row are Moreno and Cap. They have 2 in the top 10. Everybody else is coming off a loss or only has 1. So need some contender fights to figure out what's going on there.
Yeah. I would have said maybe Moreno, but I do think that UFC Guadalajara card needs a title fight. And right now, with Alexa losing, Diego losing, there aren't many candidates that you can put in a main event that are, Mexican or that represent Mexico and that can fight for a title. It's really at this point just Jair and Brandon. So you kind of have to save your cards. So yeah, I'm not too mad about this fight. But yeah, hopefully, and I think we will see some movement going on at flyweight with some of the recent bookings to another fight on that card, as Matt mentioned. All right, guys. Let's go around the panel real quick, and just if you have any, obviously this International Fight Week card is a little bit disappointing, to be honest, but there were some other matchups announced. Is there anything else you're excited for, Ghost?
I want to see Moicano and Darius. I feel like you could tell the judges to go get a hot dog for that one. They won't be needed.
Yeah. Anyone else? Anything?
I mean, I think honestly the fights.
Wells, no, nothing.
The fights are good. It's just I don't know. I need some more meaning. A little bit. I think adding another main card fight or 2, like between the I don't know, maybe below the Costa fight or above the Costa fight, like that's kind of what we need here.
Yeah. You know what? I think a low-key banger is Araujo versus Tracy Cortez. Mm-hmm. I feel like sometimes they just kind of throw technique out the window and go at it. I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being like one of the better fights of the night.
Yeah,
could be.
That's a good fight. I mean, all right, I'll give you one. I mean, Rodriguez and Jack Hermanson, that feels like that could be a fight night main event in the Apex. I'm sure RoboCop would like to, go out there and prove that his fight against Jared Cannonier was a fluke. But at least for him on his side.
Only 9 fights announced, so we get some. I don't know, what is this, 5 weeks, 6 weeks away? Like, got to figure some stuff out soon, but there is some room for improvement.
That is true. All right, guys. Well, UFC 317 wasn't the only card that got some bouts. We got some other big bouts elsewhere. So let's talk about the other bookings that we got last week. All right. So the first one, Dricus du Plessis set to defend his title against Khamzat Chimaev at UFC 319 in Chicago. Damn, I'm excited for this fight. I would say out of everything that got announced, I would say I'm maybe even more excited about this fight than the Charles Oliveira versus Ilia Topuria. What do you guys think? Let's go back to Nolan here. What's your excitement level around this title fight?
Pretty high. I think this is like an announcement that was speaking to me to a certain degree. I think I loved the location, going to a city that every time I talk about the UFC going XYZ, everybody's in the comments saying, why don't they come to Chicago? So happy for the Chicago fans to get their card. Really interesting fight. Khamzat coming to the US, which was, I know, a big point of debate if he could get in. Seems like he can. This fight is just so it's a great crossroads for me in that it's 2 of the best middleweights in the world. I don't really know what's going to happen, and it's just weird. And I think like that's just like that's what I like about MMA, right? So this checks a lot of boxes for me. I'm pretty excited about it. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of. I'm usually critical of the middleweight division, so to get something like this, I'm on cloud 9 about it. I'll give it a 9.
Yeah, I'm. I like that description. I think if the UFC were to go back to giving themes or little slogans to the events, UFC 319, it's just weird. I absolutely love this fight because you got Khamzat Chimaev, who's an absolutely destroyer in the first round. I don't think there's a better first round fighter in the UFC roster than Khamzat Chimaev versus Dricus du Plessis, who's completely the opposite. Usually looks kind of like not so great at the start, but boy, you try to beat him in a fourth, fifth round. Good luck. This fight's just amazing. Matt, what is your prediction for this one? As Nolan said, this was a weird one. I'm even having trouble picking a winner here.
It's a weird one for sure. It's funny because I just saw right before we came on, somebody did like a mashup of Dricus du Plessis being Homer Simpson and like mashing up clips of Homer in fights and just falling all over the place with what DDP does. But yeah, I have no clue what's going to happen in this fight. It could be over in the first round, or it could be the sloppiest middleweight fight in the history of ever in the fifth round, with both guys just completely gassed out. I have no clue what's going to happen here. But I will say, I think this is the best middleweight title fight you can make today for this moment.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of like in welterweight, we've been wanting to see Shavkat get his title shot. I mean, it's kind of been the same thing for Chimaev, right? I mean, obviously he's had issues, with getting into the country and things like that, and that's kind of delayed things. But I think this is the best fight you can put together. Now, having said that, it's going to be wildly unpredictable. It could be very ugly. It could also be very exciting. But I think that's why a lot of people are going to tune in for it, because nobody has no idea what's going to happen.
I think this fight's going to have like 50 ups and downs, tons of close submission attempts. I think this is going to be a wild ass fight. Ghost, give me your feel about this fight, and also give us a prediction if you have any.
I think the reason we're all so confused is because we're actually going to be watching 3 fights. There's the build up to this, which is going to be absolutely insane. The first round is a fight in itself, because we know how Khamzat handles that first round. And then there's everything after the first round, which is probably where we would see DDP have some success. And we have no idea what's going to happen in any of that. But that's why we tune in. The UFC got us on this one. This is a perfect fight. Perfect fighters. I think the build up to it's going to be insane. The fight's going to be insane. I'm all about it.
Yeah. And finally, I also feel like there's some sort of relief, because we've always talked about Khamzat Chimaev being a title contender, future champion, this and that. And like his career didn't really pan out the way a lot of people thought it would, comparing it to like how it started, obviously, but it also didn't like disappear. It also didn't die. Like the hype's still there. I think he can really do something special. And if he were to become champion, I mean, I think we're in for some big fights in the future. So we'll see how that one shakes out. Another big booking that got announced, and it was a combo. It was a signing and a booking. Former Bellator champion, final Bellator champion, Patchy Mix is going to be making his debut at UFC 316 in just a few weeks against Mario Bautista. Matt, I know you've been very vocal about the potential for this guy, so I'm going to let you go first. How excited are you that Mix gets to mix it up with UFC talent here?
Very, very excited, man. And I'm even more excited because what? Say that again?
No mixed emotions. Sorry.
Oh, no mixed emotions. No more puns. Yeah, I'm super excited because as soon as the PFL finally were like, okay, we have nothing for you, and sent him on his way, I was like, he needs to be on a pay-per-view main card ASAP. And then that is what happened. Like the very next pay-per-view, here he is, already booked. Mario Bautista. The stars really aligned in a lot of ways for Patchy Mix here. So he's got a huge opportunity to go out there and show everybody that he is worth the hype, right? That he can go out there and finish these guys. If he can go out there and stop Mario Bautista, that would be a huge feather in his cap. That would be a big message of arrival here for UFC fans. And then you're talking about a guy that can go into the title picture very, very quickly. And not only get into that title picture, but I think he's a guy that you will see with the UFC title around his waist very soon.
Wow. Yeah. Nolan, you agree with the potential here?
Yeah, I think it's certainly possible. And, I'm sure a lot of our viewers know this, but I think it's a point that's very important to reiterate is like the UFC's made, as we've seen other promotions kind of fizzle out in recent years, they've made some big signings, right? They've brought on Michael Chandler, Patricio, Pico, Michael Page, RDR. But I think what makes this one stick out, maybe Kayla Harrison's the only other one, is like we're getting a fighter that is in the peak of his prime right now. This is not somebody that had done great things and still pretty good and still a top guy. Like, this guy might not even have hit his prime yet. So this is one of the best signings that I think the UFC's made in a really, really, really long time. And for fans that aren't familiar, that just watch the UFC, I think you're going to see that pretty soon, right here, throwing him right in. And what better litmus test than giving him a top 10? I believe Batista's 10, right? Or something like that. Yeah. Just perfect. Just right in there. Love it.
Yeah, the stars aligned for this one. Goes, this is not on the rundown, but like it just kind of keeps popping up in my head. How and I would try to be fair to PFL, but how much are they like fucking up, to be honest? Because like they bought Bellator, right? For the stars, right? They killed the brand, so obviously they didn't buy it for the brand. They bought it from the roster, but they've let go of MVP. They let go of Patchy. They let go of Patricio, of both Pitbull brothers. Aaron Pico. I mean, the list goes on. James Gallagher went, Ryan Bader, Gegard Mousasi. I can sit here. All the big names, for the most part, they've all left. And most of them, they didn't even get to fight. How big of a loss is this for PFL, I guess? And are you surprised they kind of let him go? Because he is a big name. He was a big part of their acquisition.
Yeah, I think it's hurting them in many ways. In the first way, it hurts that they don't get to benefit from Patchy Mix in their organization. The second way is what you don't want to be known for is like a feeder league to the UFC. You don't want to build people up just to have them go on to something better. You want to compete with the UFC and say, we have great fighters here. They have a future here. This is why when you become a free agent, you should consider the PFL. Right now, it's not looking that way. It's looking like their own fighters are just kind of hanging out there until they can be signed by the UFC. And that's not a good look. And you have Johnny Eblen still, you have Dakota Ditcheva. They kind of feel like they have one foot out the door, and that's not a good look for your organization. Patchy Mix would have been solid. He could have given you a lot of good fights.
Yeah, let's see how he's gonna do here in the UFC. This is gonna be very interesting. I almost feel like the whole saga with the PFL, the fact that they just let him go, but they held him for so long, and all these frustrations. I feel like they're gonna come out at UFC 316. I feel like they almost made him a better fighter. Is this guy that just can't wait to show the world his skills, and he finally gets to do so in the biggest stage. So really, really excited for this Patchy Mix debut. All right, guys, there were some other quick fights that I kind of want to quickly go over, some other bouts that are not as big, but certainly worth mentioning here. I guess let's keep the PFL theme going. Sergio Pettis versus Rafael Stotts. Nolan, you I believe you reported that, or at least you're muted. Sorry.
3 for 3. It was on a PFL release.
Got it.
Yeah, it's going to take place in Chicago. Good fight. Glad to see some of the old Bellator guard guys get fights without having to be released,
Yeah, that is nice. It's a pretty big fight. Like it's a nice fight for the PFL. I wish they did more of these. And like, I don't know why Mix couldn't go against Sergio Pettis rematch or something like this, like in all these other cards that they were having. Like, I don't know why they didn't make those fights, but I'm pretty excited. Also, former teammates or current teammates. I don't know. Right.
Yeah, they definitely had a training history because they were aligned to fight, I think, in one of the Grand Prix one year. And that was like kind of the build was like, it might have been when Sergio was champ too. Yeah. And then it ended up not happening. I think Sergio got hurt or tore his ACL or something. So they're definitely close.
Matt, we're also going to get Amir Abbasi versus Tatsuro Taira for UFC Fight Night, main event on August 2nd, I believe in Vegas. What do you make of this fight, and what's at stake here? Because this is a pretty big fight for 125 pounds, but also kind of a weird division right now.
Yeah, what's at stake is the UFC Apex Championship, because Tatsuro Taira's entire career is playing out in the warehouse, and I cannot be more gutted for him. When you're talking about wanting to build stars, right? It was kind of mentioned earlier when Goes touched on, WrestleMania, right? And I couldn't help but think about that video of Dana White that came out where he was like, yeah, we don't do anything. Like, we just put the guys in the fights and we don't do any promotion, essentially is what he was saying, right? Which is the complete opposite of what happens in the WWE. Like, they literally call everybody superstars because they actually promote. Anyways, it's either here or there, but it's hard to build a star when their entire career is playing out in the Apex and they don't have big moments to play out in front of huge crowds. So it sucks for Tatsuro Taira in this spot, but man, I think it's a big fight, obviously for the rankings, potential, title implications and all that. But man, just get Taira out of the warehouse, man. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, it's not like he had one of the best fights of 2024, right? Or was it 2024? I can't even. Was it 2024? Going with Royval.
Might have been right on the border of it. Yeah.
Nolan's pretty good with dates usually, I feel like.
I mean, Google's pretty good with dates. It was
I think it's like October.
Elevator music. October 2024.
Knew it. Yeah, I mean, one of the best fighters of the year, and yeah, he's back at the Apex Fun. But yeah, also another fight goes Shar Magomedov, Bullet Magomedov versus Shar Bullet versus Nikita Krivlov for UFC on ABC 9 on July 6th. Thoughts on that fight? And also, is Shar Bullet's hype gone? Because I kind of feel like the MVP loss really took a lot out of him, and now he's fighting Nikita Krivlov. I don't know how excited I'm for this fight, but I don't know.
It's actually Burial, I think.
Oh, Burial. My bad.
Krylov.
Okay, thanks, Nolan, for correcting. Okay. Yes, Nikita Krivlov would be a 205. Yes, I don't know where I got mixed up there. Yeah. Thoughts on Shar Bullet right now?
I think you could just stop at Shar Bullet versus, and everybody just kind of gets hyped. Despite, I'm still hyped on him. I think he's a fun fighter, and I think he's still trying to find his way a little bit. But I think he's going to be around. I think he's entertaining. He's got the knockout reel, so I'm down.
Yeah. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, it is Shar Bullet versus Marc-Andre Barrio, who just completely destroyed Bruno. Nolan, any thoughts on that booking? Are you hyped as well, or do you feel like Shar Bullet's kind of hype has gone away a little bit?
I think his hype's gone down for sure, but I'm still excited to see him. Like, he's a very fun fighter. I think I still don't really know where he fits in the whole picture.
Yeah.
Fighting MVP is a weird one. I think for anybody. So it's possible he gets back on the horse and continues to go up the ladder. So yeah, I'm excited to see him every time he fights, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Matt, any thoughts on the booking as well?
Yeah, it's a good matchup, especially considering what Burial just did, right?
Yeah.
As far as Shara, yeah, he's only got one loss, man, and I mean he's got that whole mystique about him. He's got the monochromia thing going on with his eyes. He got the pirate persona sort of thing going too. I mean, there's a lot to like about him. He kind of sells himself in a lot of ways, right? So, yeah, I'm excited to see him get back into action and see if he can, kind of get back on track with what happened with Michael Page.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys, for our final segment, we're going to be moving on to a preview for UFC Fight Night 257 or UFC Vegas 107, which, again, is not this weekend, but the following, but we'll be off on next Monday due to Memorial Day. So a pretty big fight, another Apex card in terms of, we get a nice main event, but everything after that, maybe not so great, but still a pretty big fight for women's flyweight. We got Erin Blanchfield taking on Macy Barber. What's at stake here, Ghost? Because certainly I think the winner here, especially if something impressive is done, could maybe surpass Natalia Silva, who we talk about maybe being the next challenger in that weight class.
Yeah, I think what you got to do is in this fight, you not only have to be a winner, you have to put a stamp on your victory because this is a tight race. And you got to let the fans know that you're still there, right? What we say it week after week, this is a what have you done for me lately sport. And you really need to put a stamp on your victory. Whether you're Macy Barber or Erin Blanchfield, you got to come out and really put it all out there and make us all feel like you cannot look to another division. Right here, there are still contenders, and we need to stay within this group.
Yeah. What's the importance here, Nolan, for this fight? You agree with Ghost?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly, you have Natalia Silva up there. Could one of these fighters sneak in? It really comes down to their performance. If somebody just goes and runs through the other one, I think they kind of maybe stake their claim as the next one up. It's both of, neither have fought Valentina before. So I think this is a really important fight for the division. Natalia is a tough performance to beat, but go out there, get a finish. I think you've aligned yourself pretty well. Yeah.
I think at worst, if the UFC were to make Zhang Weili versus Valentina Shevchenko, I think the winner here gets herself a title eliminator bout against Natalia Silva, right, Matt?
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think Natalia Silva's got that locked in, or should I say Natalie Silva? She's got that spot locked in. I believe. You go out there and you beat Jessica Andrade and Alexa Grasso back to back, 2 former champs. I think you deserve that title shot, right? I mean, I think the only thing kind of hampering her is the 4 straight decisions. So maybe if someone goes out there and does something super spectacular, they could really get on the mic and cut a fiery promo, and then that could elevate some interest as well. But I think it's not Natalia Silva's spot right now. But I do like this fight, though. I think it could produce some fireworks. It really could.
Okay. Let's get into predictions. This was a tough one for me. I think I'm gonna go. See, this is the problem. When I say I think I'm leaning Blanchfield, then I go, I think I'm leaning Barber. I think this was a really tough one for me. I can see either girl winning this one. I think I'm gonna go. See, I don't know. I'm gonna go with Ghost. How about that? I'm gonna go with Ghost. He's gonna give me some insight. Ghost, what's the prediction for this one?
I think Erin did a good job of bouncing back from her loss, and I feel like she's in control in this fight. But what Macy Barber is she's relentless. She doesn't stop coming forward, and I'm curious what that's going to do to an Erin. If she can back her up in this fight, I think she will have some success. But if I had to pick one, man, I think I'm going to stick with Erin Blanchfield. I think she'll find a way to win.
Yeah. Is it unanimous? Do you guys agree? Nolan, what's your official pick here?
Yeah, I think Ghost has a really good read on it. You know, Barber, there's some things that I think she does a lot better than Erin, but I think what we've seen from Erin when she's able to implement her game plan and use her wrestling and her pressure, I think it goes well for her. And I think Barber is somebody that she can use that game plan against. So not like she's going to have to go outside the box like when she fought Manon. I think this is kind of in her wheelhouse, so I am going to lean with her. Close fight, though. Close one.
Yeah, very close. Matt, your prediction?
My prediction is it'll be a split decision, and somebody's going to cry robbery.
Okay, bold pick. Very fitting for the Apex, huh?
Exactly.
See, I can see Blanchfield. I feel like she's the more technical fighter. I do think she's going to give Barber a lot of trouble in the wrestling, but Barber has a little bit more fight, she's a little bit more gritty, and she hits harder. I can see her losing maybe first couple of rounds, and then, you know, as the third, fourth, fifth turn, I can see her getting an edge and maybe getting that split decision as Matt said. But yeah, we'll see. This is a very, very interesting fight. Big fight for women's flyweight. All right, guys, give me one highlight against, not the biggest card, but give me one highlight. There has to be something, right? Give me one highlight that you're looking forward to in this fight. Let's go back with Goes here.
One highlight, it's got to be the super chat that Matthew just gave us. Thank you very much for that.
We'll talk about that in a second. We'll address that.
Yeah. But you know what? For me, Jacoby and Lopez, I feel like there's just no way. Every time that guy gets in there, Jacoby, he's throwing bombs, man. I love watching him fight, and it's tactical chaos. So I'm down with that one.
Matt,
I mean, I have no idea what they're doing with this matchup and why it's currently listed as a prelim fight. Oban Elliott and Ramiz Brahima, that is going to be an absolute banger. We're talking about Oban Elliott, man. That dude, he's got the personality. We can talk about stars that, you know, have been building their own brands and, you know, getting people hype. Oban Elliott's that dude, and Ramiz brings it, man. That's going to be a hell of a fight. I'm talking like that should be your fight of the night pick right there, and it absolutely should be on this main card. I don't know why it's not.
Yeah, Noli.
Shout out to El Matu as well, but Ludovic Klein 6-0-1 in his last 7, quietly piling up wins, fighting Mateus Gamrot, who really wanted to fight. So kind of weird matchmaking, but I guess you know, there's obviously benefit for Klein and for Gamrot, who told Mike a couple weeks ago he was chomping at the bit to get a fight. Here they are, co-main event. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I like that. And my pick is going to be El Matu here. We're going to shout him out. I actually met this guy. He is from Mexico. I met him when I was covering UFC Mexico City earlier this year. Also a big fan of Hablemos MMA and always following the sport. So he gives us here a super chat and also has a question for the panel and says, who has more chance of losing his undefeated, Topuria or Chimaev? Greetings to all you guys. Very good question. Nolan, let's go back to you. What do you think about this one?
It's tough. Good question. I'm going to have to go with Chimaev just because DDP just has superpowers that I cannot figure out yet. I think I picked against him every fight of his career so far. That's not gone well for me. So I'm going to go with him. I'm going to say that DDP has a better chance of beating Chimaev. I guess it doesn't have to be immediate, but I'm going to say Chimaev.
Yeah, I'm going to say Chimaev as well. Matt, do you agree with us?
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you guys. I mean, it's just DDP keeps figuring out ways to win fights, right? Post nose job DDP is a whole different animal. He just fumbles his way into victories every single time, and it's just if nobody can figure it out, it's crazy. And we've seen Chimaev kind of gas out in fights like hard, to where it's like, how are you still surviving? Almost kind of like Jose Aldo did not too long ago in his last fight. So
this is 5 rounds. Yeah.
Exactly. That's my biggest concern is the gas tank. Topuria, I mean, Topuria is just, he's been hitting on all cylinders. The only question for him is like, how well does his power translate up to 155? We're going to find out, but he hasn't shown anything as concerning as we've seen from Chimaev.
Yeah. Is it unanimous here? You going with Chimaev as well?
It's unanimous. I think Matt hit the nail on the head. Like, if you look at Chimaev, there, as destructive as he's been, there's at least something we can point to. But when you look at Topuria, like, what are this guy's weaknesses? What do we pick on? There's absolutely nothing there, man. He gives us nothing. So I got to go with Chimaev.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I enjoyed this conversation very much. Thank you for joining today's show and your great insight. A lot of hashtag Danny B tripping, but that's okay. Appreciate the conversation. So for everyone tuning in, thank you so much as well for your support. Please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow MMA Junkie on all social media platforms at MMA Junkie. All those 3 things are a must for any MMA fan. And we won't be back next week, but the week after that. But we'll have something next week. We'll have a Q&A with one of the panelists, with somebody here from the site. So we'll have something going. We won't leave you alone. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks.